It's the next day here. You guys saw me working on the left driver's side with the apron, and the headlight actually was not fitting up properly. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I took this piece off of the headlight. So when I was trying to fit up the headlight, basically there's 3 areas where a screw goes into. Now you see these 2 on here on the radiator support. They go like that. And then up here, there is another little spot which holds this bracket, which is right here. So I was suspecting that this was bent in some way. And of course it is. You can see how it's bent out just a little bit there. So I'm gonna try to bend that back. I do need to take the fender off. I'll do that later. But got this puller kit, which I'm hoping to use some of these attachments to basically pull that dent out. And then I got a little hammer too for the dent tool that I'll hammer part of it back in. Let's go ahead and get the fender off and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do after that. Little update here. It's the next day. I went ahead and got the fender kind of bolted up, kind of off camera. I was having a little issue with this bracket. Let's see if I can get it. There's a bracket right here. As you can see, it's clipped in right here and right here. That's on the fender. And basically this headlight piece that was bent where the bolt comes in through the back here, this piece right here, it wasn't sliding in perfectly because I did have to bend this bracket because it was damaged very slightly from the wreck. And I got that pretty good. I got it slid in so the fender is actually being held right there. I have the bolts just kind of loose in there so I can kind of get it how I want it. I want to get the gaps all correct here. As you can see, it's a little tight up here, and then it's not fully set. So I'm gonna have my grandpa come out here and help me basically hold this fender to how I like it, and then I'll just screw in all of the bolts and then get it secured so that all of the gaps are all flush and exactly the same on both sides. All right, so I got the gaps pretty good. Got the hood all aligned right here. It looks pretty decent, not the best, but it'll do until I take off the hood to get that repainted. But mainly I was focusing on this gap right here, and it looks pretty solid. Got the this area was a little pushed up, so I got that kind of flattened down, and it's looking pretty good. Looking about the same as it was. Side skirt just clips in there, so it kind of gets its own gap. Another thing is I think this fender did get a little bit damaged because you can see it's a little bit bowed right there, but I think whenever we get the bumper in with those bolts, it will kind of look normal. Also, this area looks to be pushed down slightly, and we did get the hood aligned too, so this is all flat on both sides. I'll show you this side. This is the side that wasn't damaged. You can see it's just perfect. But right now I'm gonna go ahead and take this left tire and wheel off that is damaged. I'm gonna take it to a shop where I can get the rim pushed back to the area that it was and then replace the tire. As you can see, it's really hard to see, but this is where the dent took place. This was actually damaged in the wreck. This side was over here, and I think something punctured it. Part of the headlight maybe went through there, and then I think it pushed this tire down really far and kind of bent that. So as you can see, the tire's even bubbled. But that's all right, because this is a really good tire. It's a Pirelli tire. On this side, I believe it's a Nexen. Too sure on the brand, but that's a tire spec right there. And then I ended up just getting the same Nexen tire used, and this one's in a lot better condition than that one, but it'll be okay. It was only about, I think, 90 bucks, 95 bucks. So I'll go ahead and have them put all that on and then get the tire balance and everything. I can just throw it on. Now I know for sure that the tire is good and it's not gonna pop on me. Got the rear bumper put on. Fitment is pretty good since the OEM bumper, although because of the damage, I think that this fender is kind of, the tabs are kind of bent like that, and so this is not fitting as it should, but I basically just need someone to lift this part up while I can put those bolts in, because it's very difficult, but I'll just leave that how it is for now. I can still do body work on the front bumper. I'm just gonna try to focus on getting the front bumper done, all the body work done on that. I did get a body work sanding tool, basically just a very flat sanding block. It's also very long so that you get the edges nice and flat, so that you can see all of the divots in the bumper and in the hood. In the hood, you can barely see it, but there is some little dents in this area. I tried popping them off with the little hammer, but I'll still need to do some body work on the hood, mainly just in this area right here. The rest of the hood is pretty much good. Probably just needs to be sanded. As you can see, there is like, see if I can capture that. See like little divots like that. If I sand it all down with like 220 grit and then go up to 400 and prime it, I'm sure it will be fine. So no body filler in those areas, but I will need to in the front. As for the front bump, I already did a little bit of body work on it, so mainly just focusing on getting this flat. I did put another piece of fiberglass behind this, because you can see this bumper is a little bit cracked in this area, and I just want it to get not really flexible in this area anymore, because once I start putting body work in that, and if that flexes anymore, it's just gonna crack. It just something I'm gonna have to deal with. Hopefully I get it right and it doesn't really crack once we paint it. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump on the front bumper and getting that completely dialed in. Got a lot of the major body work done besides this section on the hood. I'll get to that in a minute, but the bumper is pretty good right now. I got it sanded down, blocked down, it's pretty smooth. And I used some of this glazing putty just for the little pinholes and minor little divots in the bumper. So that's drying right now. Then I went ahead and went on the hood, circled all the little areas. You can see that's kind of sinking in a little bit, so I'm gonna have to redo that. but I circled all the little areas where it had dents on this side of the hood, and I used this little nylon brush tool right here that strips paint. It does a pretty good job, and it wasn't too expensive, so that's a win in my book. And now I went ahead and blocked this side of the hood just so I could see all the spots where it was low. As you can see, the spots where the paint wasn't scratched is all the low spots. So we got one right here, here, another big one kind of right here, and a bunch of minor ones. This side wasn't too bad. There's just these little chips right here where I think it was rusting, and then the previous owner got one of those little paint correction tools and repainted those. Those we might just kind of sand down a little bit and then put glazing putty over them. Not a big deal, but go ahead and circle the areas where we need to strip. We'll strip the paint and then put the Bondo over it. And the reason you want to strip the paint is because the Bondo likes to stick to metal rather than... And the reason you want to go ahead and strip down the areas where it's low is because Bondo likes to stick to raw metal rather than sanded down paint. I went ahead and finished the rest of the sanding on the bumper and the hood. I figured I'd go ahead and do that off camera because it's kind of repetitive. But I spent a lot of time on the hood trying to get it perfect and all the rock chips out. I think it's looking pretty good. One day I did have something sitting on the engine cover and I closed the hood. And so I had like a little bit of a high spot there. So I hit that down and re-primed that, and now it's nice and smooth. I sanded everything with 320 grit. So I'm getting ready for the urethane primer. It's a 2K primer. I'm going to spray it with an actual gun, and it's very, very tough stuff, and it lays pretty smooth as well. Here is the bumper, all sanded up to 320. Got a lot of the body work done here. Try to get that as smooth as possible. You can still feel a little bit, but the urethane primer that I got is very thick and it will lay straight over that. And once I sand it, it will be completely smooth. I also got this little M Sport or M Tech bumper lip here. It didn't fit super well. I believe it was like around 60 bucks or so on eBay. It didn't fit super well, so I went ahead and put some self tappers in here at the bottom and zip tied it and just hit it with a heat gun a little bit to get it to sit kind of where it needs to. But this has also been sanded to 320 grit. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up the paint, get all of this prepped. You wanna make sure you prep all the plastics and stuff, especially because they tend to crack paint. And let's go ahead and do that. I got everything primed. I coated everything 2 coats besides this hood. It's a little bit thin, but again, it was already primed previously with some cheaper primer. It didn't lay super smooth, but this is some pretty thick stuff, so it can all be wet sanded down to probably a 600 grit before I get it painted. You can see here's the front bumper. I made sure to cover the front bumper, especially because again, there are these little divots here that needed to be filled in with primer, and now it looks pretty smooth. We'll see what happens when I wet sand it. I'll go ahead and catch you guys in the morning. We got a lot done today, a lot of prep work that had to go into sanding all this and getting it ready to get primed. And tomorrow I'll go ahead and wet sand it, let this dry for about 14 hours or so. Alright guys, long story short, I really messed up on this paint job. I painted it when it was super humid outside. I was also spraying it very, very thick. So this was my first paint job. I just filmed everything off camera because I wanted to concentrate on it, and it still turned out like shit. You can see the metallics on the hood are starting to drip off a little bit. I ended up getting 2 coats in the hood and then 1 coat on the front bumper and lower lip, so I ran out of paint as well. I didn't even put clear coat on it because I knew I was gonna have to sand it down and redo it, so there was no point in wasting the clear coat. I'll probably have a professional do it. As you guys know, I also have a 535i that I'm rebuilding as well. That is the exact same space gray metallic, so I'll probably wait till I get that done before I spray the rest of this and get it completely perfect. For right now, it's better than what it was. It's been like a year between these 2 clips. So I've been driving this car around basically like this with no clear coat and the paint looking really bad. But I'll go ahead and wait a little bit longer until I get the 535i done so I can have a professional paint the rest of everything. Now that we got the exterior basically looking okay, we do have some issues we got to address with this car. Right now the water pump went out, so I'll need to replace that. We're gonna do a few upgrades. In the next video, we'll do some more driving. I know this video is kind of all over the place, but in the next video, we'll do some more driving, and I'll explain to you guys what all has been going on with this car in the past year, because there's been quite a lot. So stay tuned for the next video. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like, and thank you guys for watching.